Okay, so before the video starts, I had to film this with a really bad cold. As you can see, I still kind of have it, but if my voice sounds like a little strained, that's why. Alright, enjoy the video. Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I thought, in honor of the holiday season, I would go back and talk about the Rankin Bass stop-motion Christmas specials. This is essentially like the MCU, but with Christmas characters and other holidays. However, for the sake of this video, I'm only going to be talking about the Christmas specials, so no Easter ones today. Here's a fun fact: the same people who made Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer are the same people who made Frosty the Snowman. It's not really a fun fact, it's like general common knowledge. But they also made a bunch of other specials that my siblings and I grew up watching all the time on ABC Family's 25 Days of Christmas. It is generally so annoying having to explain to my friends these specials because I feel like outside of me, no one really knows about them, or a lot of people my age don't know about them. And they don't really air the other ones, they only really air Frosty and Rudolph, or maybe they do, I just don't check the TV channel. But nonetheless, we're still going to talk about them in this video. Also, want to give a super quick shout out to the YouTube channels Mung and Quentin Reviews because I followed the timeline that they talked about in their Rankin Bass videos, and it was a huge help, so I would totally recommend going to check out their channels and their YouTube videos on Rankin Bass. Alright, let's get into it. Okay, I thought it would be fitting if I gave a quick backstory on the studio and its unfortunate demise. Alright, get out your pens, papers, and laptops because we're taking notes. Rankin Bass Animated Entertainment, founded and formerly known as Videocraft International Ltd. And Rankin Bass Productions, was an American production company located in New York City. It was known for its seasonal television specials, usually done in stop-motion animation. Rankin and Bass's stop-motion productions are recognizable by their visual styles of doll-like characters with spheroid body parts. Beginning in the late 1950s, early 1960s, when Arthur Rankin Jr. and Jules Bass, two young New York-based producers with backgrounds in advertising and television, decided to form their own animation and production company. Arthur Rankin Jr. worked for ABC and various art departments. He was skilled at production design and had a strong sense of visual style. Jules Bass came from the advertising world, specializing in writing and music. His background in copywriting and his interest in storytelling made him a natural creative partner. Their complementary skills, Rankin's design eye and Bass's writing/music sense, were the foundations of their collaboration. Before the company was called Rankin Bass, they founded Videocraft International Ltd. Around 1955. Their earliest work included small animated commercials and short TV segments, which helped them learn the logistics of animation production. They soon realized that producing animation in the US was expensive, so they looked abroad for studios capable of the high-quality work. Sorry, the sun was just so bright in here. Rankin and Bass forged a pivotal relationship with Japanese animation studio, first Toei Animation and later Mom Productions. This partnership gave birth to their signature techniques: Animagic stop motion, a detailed stop motion process using small, expressive puppets. One of their first major productions was the TV series The New Adventures of Pinocchio, which came out in 1960. Animated in Japan and using early forms of Animagic. The show was a moderate success, but proved that international productions could work. Everything changed, though, in 1964 when NBC greenlit the idea for a Christmas special based on the popular song Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. Some key factors in the special's success included a lavish stop-motion animation from Mom Productions, a memorable song by Johnny Marks, narration by Burl Ives, and a warm storybook tone that became Rankin Bass's trademark. The special was a ratings hit, becoming a yearly broadcast tradition, and it instantly established the Videocraft as a major holiday special studio. After Rudolph's success, Videocraft officially changed its name to Rankin Bass Productions in the mid-1960s to reflect the creative partnership. The company continued to collaborate with Japanese studios, expanding into more Christmas specials and experimenting with 2D traditional animation with projects like the animated Hobbit movies, Thundercats, and The Last Unicorn, which is a great movie. I totally recommend watching it. Their identity, though, became synonymous with the holiday television specials. Alright, test is next week, so be prepared. Alright, first up for this universe, we got the Little Drummer Boy. So this would be our Captain America the First Avenger, essentially. The special debuted on TV on December 19th, 1968, first debuting in Canada on the CTV network and followed 4 days later by its American broadcast premiere on NBC. The story follows Aaron, a young boy who becomes bitter towards humanity after his parents are killed by desert bandits. His only companions are his 3 loyal animals: Baba, a sheep; Samson, a donkey; and Joshua, a camel. Aaron is kidnapped by desert entertainer Ben Harmed, who uses the boy and his animals in his traveling show. While being dragged around the desert, he eventually meets up with the 3 wise men, who are following the star to Bethlehem. When Aaron's beloved sheep, Baba, is injured, the wise men instruct Aaron to seek help from the newborn baby Jesus in Bethlehem. With nothing else to offer, Aaron plays his drum, his most treasured possession, and the only thing that can bring him peace. His music, miraculously, heals Baba, and Aaron's faith in humanity is restored. So when I was a kid, I didn't really understand the story because I really only did around 2 or 3 years of CCD when I was in elementary school. If anyone else had to do CCD as a kid, please let me know in the comments. Anyways, I remember not really enjoying this special because I thought it was a little boring and I was like, where are all the Christmas aspects? Mind you, I was like 7 or 8 when I first watched this, and I thought it was a little boring. And now, watching it as an 18-year-old, it's still not my favorite. I'm not really that religious, so I don't really feel any connection towards the story.
What kind of baby would want that?
And I'm not saying you have to be super religious to connect to the story. It just really wasn't my preferred special. Nestor the Long-Eared Donkey premiered on December 3rd, 1977 on ABC. So this would be our Captain Marvel for this universe. Nestor is a young donkey born with very long ears, which makes him clumsy and the subject of ridicule among the other animals. His owner, a harsh Roman stable master, sees no value in him. During a brutal winter's night, Nestor's mother sacrifices herself to protect him from the cold and freezes to death. Mind you, this is a kid's movie. Alone and grieving, Nestor wanders into the desert. He meets a gentle angel named Tilly, who tells him he has a greater purpose and guides him towards Bethlehem. Nestor eventually meets Mary and Joseph, who need a donkey to take them safely across the desert. Nestor, using his long ears to sense the wind and guide them through a dangerous sandstorm, leading them safely to Bethlehem, just in time for the birth of baby Jesus. For the first time, Nestor realizes that what made him different was actually his greatest strength. So I guess this is where they decided to come up with Rudolph, because Nestor and Rudolph are basically the same characters. I know this came out after Rudolph, but I'm going in like timeline order, if that makes any sense. But yeah, they're the same character. They both have a birth defect or challenge. They're picked on for it, they run away, and then are eventually chosen upon to save the day, and realize that the thing they were bullied for was actually their greatest strength all along. So for a really long time, this was my little brother's favorite Rankin Bass movie. And it's not that this isn't really bad, it's just not really my favorite. Don't get me wrong, I definitely think the story is super important, but I just don't really, I don't know. I thought it was a little boring. But I will say it is important to teach your kids about it, and the special's only like 24 minutes long, so it's relatively short. But that's really it. It's kind of boring, I'm sorry. Although I will say Nestor is very cute, so it gets points for that. Santa Claus is Coming to Town premiered on December 13th, 1970 on ABC. Skipping ahead a few decades, this would be our Iron Man, in which we introduce one of our main recurring characters in this universe. The film is essentially an origin story about Santa Claus and how he became the legend that he is, and the special is narrated by Fred Astaire. And Mickey Rooney stars as Kris Kringle / Santa Claus. The story is narrated by S.D. Kluger, a friendly mailman who explains the origins of Santa Claus by answering children's letters. A baby named Kris is left on the doorsteps of the enchanted Kringle family, a group of toy-making elves. They raise him as their own, and as Kris grows up, cheerful and adventurous, he is determined to deliver toys to children. Kris sets out for the nearby somber town ruled by the grumpy and strict Burgermeister Meisterburger, who has outlawed toys after injuring himself on one. Children are forbidden to play, laugh, or own toys. When Kris arrives and gives toys to children, he instantly becomes a wanted man. Along the way, Kris meets Topper, a helpful penguin, and Jessica, a schoolteacher who admires Kris's kindness. He also meets the Winter Warlock, who begins as a fearsome villain by capturing Kris and Topper,
but changes after Chris gives him a toy, and now just wants to go by winter when he starts singing this banger.
Put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor.
As Chris continues giving out toys, he invents many traditions. Holiday stockings to hide toys from Meisterburger's soldiers, coming down the chimney to evade the guards, Santa's laugh, ho ho ho, Santa's red suit given to him by the Kringles, and delivering toys at night when people are home and the guards are asleep. Chris marries Jessica and grows a beard and eventually adopts the name Santa Claus. When the Meisterburger eventually fades from power, the laws banning toys are lifted. Santa and Jessica make their new home at the North Pole, where they can make toys all year round, and on Christmas Eve, Santa can go out and deliver them to the children of the world. So this one I obviously watched a lot as a kid, and for good reason. It's a good special, and I love how cute everything is. I love Chris and Jessica's relationship, and even though the Burgermeister is a terrible person, he's a pretty decent villain, and I like all the side characters. The Winter Warlock, or Winter, being my favorite, just because he starts out being evil for no reason, and then he just becomes nice. The only thing that does suck is that outside of Santa and Mrs. Claus, obviously, none of the other side characters show up ever again, which is a huge missed opportunity. Just saying. Also, I find this special to be very aesthetically pleasing. It just looks so pretty, and I love the big Christmas tree at the end where it's like lit up, and it's so pretty. So I would definitely say this is one of my favorites. A Year Without a Santa Claus premiered on December 10th, 1974 on ABC. The special is narrated by Shirley Booth and stars Mickey Rooney, Dick Shawn, and George S. Irving. So this essentially would be our Iron Man 2, if you will. The plot. Santa comes down with a cold and starts feeling underappreciated, so he decides to just take the year off from delivering presents. Mrs. Claus sends two elves, Jingle and Jangle, along with Vixen, the reindeer, to find proof that people still believe in Santa. Their mission gets complicated when they run into the feuding Miser brothers, Snow Miser, who controls the cold, and Heat Miser, who controls the heat. Mrs. Claus eventually steps in, convincing their mother, Mother Nature, to force the brothers to cooperate so that the elves can complete their mission. When people hear Santa might skip Christmas, they show an outpour of belief and goodwill, and moved by his renewed spirit, Santa recovers his faith in humanity and decides to deliver presents after all. Okay, so this movie is so weird and interesting to me because, first off, the two elves take a young Vixen. And, mind you, by this point, Santa has all of his reindeer. So why is Vixen suddenly de-aged? I will never know. But I think we all know the real reason why this movie is more remembered than, say, some of the other Christmas specials. It's simply because of Snow Miser and Heat Miser and the song they sing in this movie.
I'm Mr. White Christmas. I'm Mr. Snow. I'm Mr. Icicle. I'm Mr. Ten Below. I'm Mr. Green Christmas. I'm Mr. Sun. I'm Mr. Heat Blister. I'm Mr. 101.
Because I don't know why, but sometimes this song will just randomly pop up on TikTok and everybody loves it. And it's like, where have you been? I think this one is really good. When I was a kid, I didn't really like it that much, but I like it more now that I'm a little bit older. And I watch this one every year with my family at my house, and it's just become a cute little tradition that we have. I do feel really bad for Santa in this movie because he doesn't feel love and appreciative, and I think so many people are like, no, like, we love you, Santa, like, trust, like, you are important, King. And I like how the movie kind of handles the idea of Santa maybe not wanting to be Santa anymore. I think this is the story that Disney stole for that one Christmas movie that came out. It's called Noel, because basically the plot of that movie is Noel's brother is Santa Claus, and he doesn't want to be Santa anymore. So she's like, I'll be Santa. And yeah, I think they copied that plot from A Year Without a Santa Claus. Alright, Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer premiered on December 6, 1964 on NBC. The special is based on the Johnny Marks 1949 song of the same name, which in turn is inspired by the 1939 book poem of the same name written by Mark's brother-in-law, Robert L. May. So this would be the Incredible Hulk of this universe, but the difference is that this movie's good and the Incredible Hulk movie is bad. The plot. The story follows Rudolph, a young reindeer born with a glowing red nose. His parents and Santa initially worry that the unusual nose will make him stand out in the wrong way. Wow, that's some encouragement. When the other young reindeer mock him during reindeer tryouts, Rudolph runs away in embarrassment. On his journey, he befriends Hermie, an elf who doesn't fit in because he wants to be a dentist instead of a toy maker. The two misfits team up, and after escaping the abominable snowman monster, they end up on the island of misfit toys, where unwanted or defective toys hope to find children who will love them. Determined to prove themselves, Rudolph later returns home to find his family missing and captured while searching for him. With the help of Hermie and Yukon Cornelius, he rescues them, and even gets help from the reformed abominable snowman monster. When a fierce snowstorm threatens to cancel Christmas, Santa realizes that Rudolph's glowing nose can guide his sleigh. Rudolph leads the team through the snow, saving Christmas, and realizes that the thing that once made him different is now his greatest strength. The misfit toys are also given a chance at new homes. So obviously, this movie is a classic. I watch this every year, and like most people, when I explain what Rankin Bass is, their minds immediately go to Rudolph, which makes sense. Rudolph is one of their most popular specials. But nonetheless, I love this movie, and my favorite character is Yukon Cornelius. I think he's really funny, and he has my favorite character design in the movie. Also, here's a fun fact. The original version did not include Santa traveling to the island of misfit toys to pick them up. According to Jules Bass, viewers wanted to see the scene and wrote letters. The scene was later animated and added in 1965. Also, I think the reason why Rudolph's nose glows is because he has so much love inside of him. Rudolph's Shiny New Year is a Christmas and New Year special and is the standalone sequel to Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, and the special aired on December 10th, 1976 on ABC. I'm going to put this movie in the category of the one-shot shorts that Marvel used to release, where it was like other characters who were in the movies doing something else, but it's all in like one take. So that's where I'm going to put this movie. It's a one-shot short. The plot. Right after saving Christmas, Rudolph is summoned by Father Time, who needs urgent help finding Happy, the baby New Year, who has run away, and without Happy, New Year's cannot begin, and time will forever be stuck on December 31st. Happy fled because people would laugh at his unusually large ears. Determined to bring him back, Rudolph, who knows what it's like to be mocked for looking different, sets off on a journey throughout the Islands of Years, each ruled by a monarch who represents a different historical era. Rudolph teams up with General Ticker, Sir 1023, and Big Ben the Whale as they search for the missing baby. Meanwhile, the villainous Eon the Terrible is a giant vulture who wants to capture Happy because if the new year never arrives, Eon will avoid turning into ice and disappearing forever. Holy that is so sad. I know Bro has been alive for an eon, but still, that is so sad. Eventually, Rudolph finds Happy on the island of no name. By encouraging Happy to embrace what makes him unique and to remind him that laughter can be the sign of joy, not ridicule, Rudolph helps restore the boy's confidence. They return to Father Time just in time to usher in the new year and allowing time to move forward. So how time works in this universe is that each year a new baby New Year is kind of born or is given the role, and throughout the year he just rapidly ages and grows up, and by the time December comes he's old and he's ready to die. Therefore a new baby New Year is able to come and take its place. Oh, and Rudolph in this is suddenly like de-aged because this takes place right after Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. So he's just suddenly de-aged. What? So I remember this special as a kid, but I was really confused and sometimes felt like it didn't really exist. I always forget about this movie just because of its really weird plot. It's just a really random sequel, but hey, they can't all be perfect. Alright, Frosty the Snowman first aired on December 7th, 1969 on CBS, immediately following the fifth airing of A Charlie Brown Christmas. The special is based on Walter E. Rollins and Steve Nelson's song of the same name. So this would be our first Thor movie, introducing one of our key players. The plot. On the last day of school, before Christmas, a group of children build a snowman and they name him Frosty. When the bumbling magician Professor Hinkle tosses away his old hat, the kids place it on top of Frosty's head, and to their amazement, it brings him to life. Delighted, but rapidly melting, Frosty realizes he needs to get somewhere cold. With the help of a kind little girl named Karen, he heads towards the North Pole. They board a refrigerated train car, but Professor Hinkle, realizing the hat has magical powers, pursues them in hopes of reclaiming it. Naturally, Karen begins to freeze in the cold car, so Frosty leaves the train and seeks shelter, eventually meeting Santa Claus, who agrees to help. However, when Hinkle traps Frosty in a greenhouse, he slowly melts, leaving Karen on the floor crying. Again, that is so sad. However, Santa rescues Frosty and reminds Hinkle that kindness matters more than greed. The magician apologizes and earns the promise of a new, better hat if he behaves. Frosty is restored by Santa's Christmas magic and returns to the North Pole, but he promises the children, "I'll be back again someday." This is also one of my favorites. I think it's adorable. I love the 2D animation. I'm really glad they did it in 2D. I think Karen is adorable and sweet, and I love Frosty. He's so nice to everyone, and he loves Karen, and he just wants to spread some holiday cheer. So good for him. This is one of the specials that my family just randomly loves to quote, and my mom loves to say, "Silly, silly, silly." So yeah, no complaints here. It's a perfect introduction to the special. Frosty's Winter Wonderland is a standalone sequel to Frosty the Snowman, with the special premiering on December 2nd, 1976 on ABC. This would be another one-shot short. The plot. When winter returns, the children rejoice, and so does Frosty, who comes back to play with them as promised. They are thrilled to see him again, but Frosty soon begins to feel lonely when the kids go home at night, and he has no one to talk to when the sun goes down. To cheer him up, the children decide to build a companion, a snow woman they name Crystal. When Frosty gives a bouquet of magical flowers, Crystal comes to life, and the two quickly begin to fall in love. Frosty and Crystal want to get married.
You mean to tell me you got engaged to someone you just met that day?
Yes, pay attention.
But Jack Frost, jealous of Frosty's popularity, tries to ruin their happiness by stealing Frosty's magic hat and freezing his plans, literally. So Jack basically killed him? No big deal. By using the power of love from Crystal, she kisses him and he comes back to life, while also making him a snow corsage. Jack then realizes that he didn't need the hat and just gives it back. Eventually, Jack Frost realizes the warmth of friendship is more rewarding than jealousy. He agrees to help, and Parson Brown, a snow-made preacher, performs the wedding ceremony. With peace restored, Frosty and Crystal enjoy their new life together, and Jack Frost becomes their friend, although he tried to kill Frosty like 5 minutes ago. Though winter can't last forever, Frosty promises the children he'll return whenever the snowflakes fall again. This is just a really weird sequel, and it's kind of boring, and it's not as good as the first one. So, yeah, that's it. Jack Frost is a 1979 special, and it premiered on December 13th, 1979 on NBC. And it stars Robert Morse as Jack Frost. This movie is kind of like the beginning of the Avengers movie where they introduce Hawkeye, because we're introducing another key player in this universe. The plot. First off, this movie is narrated by the groundhog of Groundhog's Day. Jack Frost is a winter sprite in charge of cold weather, snow, and icy artistry, and he becomes curious about human life after briefly taking human form to help the village of January Junction. While invisible to humans, Jack overhears the kind and spirited Elisa, a young woman from the village, and she loves winter and even admires Jack's frosty hard work. Smitten, Jack asks Father Winter to let him become human permanently so he can win her love. Father Winter agrees, but only if Jack can complete several difficult tasks, earning a house, a horse, a bag of gold, and being recognized as a hero. Jack takes the name Jack Snip and arrives in January Junction as a tailor. He meets Elisa, but the village is suffering under the greedy tyrant Kubla Kraus, who lives in an iron castle with his mechanical army and demands heavy taxes. He would do well in 2025. Jack's attempts to acquire the items prove difficult, especially since Elisa becomes infatuated with the Sir Ravenel, a gallant knight she believed saved her life. In reality, it was Jack who actually saved her. When Elisa is captured by Kubla Kraus, Jack regains his winter powers and launches a clever rescue, proving himself a hero. However, when he returns, he discovers Elisa has pledged her love to Ravenel. Heartbroken, Jack chooses to return his role as a winter sprite, accepting that she cannot love him. Again, with these depressing storylines. What is going on here?
Always thought I'd see you again.
With winter restored and the village saved, Jack resumes bringing frost and snow to the world, content to watch over the people he helped, even if they never knew he was there. I love this special. I genuinely think it is so good. I love Jack's character arc. I think he's such a nice guy, and he just wants to be loved by this one girl, and she's in love with a knight and marries him. And I just feel so bad for him at the end. It actually breaks my heart. Although, something I will say about this movie is that the song that Elisa and her family sing in their house is a banger. Yeah, overall, I would say this is one of my favorites. I really don't know why, but I just love everything about this special. It's so much fun. Also, fun fact, Robert Morse, who voices Jack, would later go on to voice Santa in Teen Titans Go. And unfortunately, that was one of his last roles before he passed away in April of 2022. Rudolph and Frosty's Christmas in July was originally theatrically released on June 8, 1979, where it ran for 1 week in theaters. And then later that year, it premiered on ABC on November 25th. So this is the equivalent to the Avengers for this universe, in my opinion. The plot. Long ago, Santa defeated the evil wizard, Winterbolt, who once plunged the world into darkness. As punishment, Winterbolt was forced into a deep sleep, and Santa's magic star allowed the North Pole to shine safely ever since. During that ancient battle, Lady Boreal placed a spell on the then newborn Rudolph, causing his red nose to glow brightly, only if Rudolph used his nose for good. Good to know she was responsible for the trauma that Rudolph went through with everyone bullying him and his parents ridiculing his nose and Santa. When Winterbolt awakens, he learns that Rudolph and Frosty the Snowman are beloved heroes. Determined to reclaim power, he schemes to turn Rudolph's red nose into a sign of wrongdoing. Meanwhile, down in the south, a kind circus owner named Lillian Lorraine is in danger of losing her struggling summer show. Frosty, Crystal, and their children agreed to help Lily and perform in her 4th of July festival, kept safe only by temporary magic from Winterbolt that prevents them from melting. Winterbolt kind of pretends to be this fairy godmother, but in reality he's evil. Winterbolt manipulates events so that Rudolph appears to commit a theft, making his nose stop glowing. Without the protective glow, Winterbolt plans to seize Santa's magic and rule again. Frosty's hat gets taken and he just dies, and Crystal and her 2 kids see Frosty's lifeless body. That's just so sad. With the help of Big Ben and Jack Frost and the circus friends, Rudolph exposes Winterbolt's deception. Winterbolt tries to unleash his final magic through the enchanted scepter, but when it's shattered, he is destroyed. He actually has a pretty brutal death scene and he turns into a tree. Oh, and because Winterbolt is dead, Frosty and his family turn into puddles. Again, what the hell? Santa arrives just in time to save Frosty's family with his own Christmas magic, restoring them to life. Rudolph's heroism undoes the false accusations. His nose shines once more, and Lily's circus is saved. The friends return to the North Pole with the promise, even in July, the Christmas spirit can still bring light to the darkest times. So this is actually the first hour-long related special in this universe. I mean, that makes sense. That's probably why it was released into theaters. But this movie is so boring. There's so much filler, and I have a lot of questions. 1, how do Rudolph and Frosty know each other? Do they just have, snow home phones, and they're just like, hey man, what's up? Winterbolt is a dumb villain. He's basically just the Winter Warlock from Santa Claus is Coming to Town, but 10 times worse, and the Winter Warlock is just a better character. And neither of them ever show up in this universe after this movie, and yeah, it's just a really boring movie. Sorry Not Sorry. A Miser Brothers Christmas is the spin-off to the 1974 Rankin Bass special, The Year Without a Santa Claus. The animation was done by Cuppa Coffee Studios, attempting to replicate the Rankin Bass aesthetic or style of animation. Mickey Rooney and George S. Irving reprised their roles as Santa Claus and Heat Miser. Juan Kieran replaced Dick Shawn as Snow Miser because Shawn passed away in 1987. A Miser Brothers Christmas was distributed by Warner Brothers Animation under their Warner Premiere label, and they are the rights holders of the post-1974 Rankin Bass library. The special premiered on ABC Family on December 13th, 2008 during the network's annual programming event, the 25 Days of Christmas. So this would be essentially like Spider-Man Homecoming, coming out years after like the first official team up for this universe. The plot. Heat Miser and Snow Miser are still bickering and constantly blaming each other for every bit of bad weather. Their mother, Mother Nature, keeps them in line. Barely. Meanwhile, Santa Claus is preparing for Christmas when a new, dangerous invention, the super sleigh, causes an accident that injures him. The sleigh was tampered with by the jealous North Wind, who wants to take over Santa's job and become the world's most celebrated winter figure. North plans to make it seem like Heat Miser and Snow Miser actually sabotage Santa, knowing their rivalry and having them be scapegoats. Mother Nature orders the Miser brothers to put their differences aside and run Santa's workshop together while Santa recovers. The brothers struggle at first, heat melt mishaps, snow freeze mishaps, but over time they actually begin to cooperate. The elves, surprise, but hopefully help them in time for Christmas. Northwind is furious that his plan is failing, and he launches a final scheme and tries to deliver presents to himself so he can steal Santa's glory. But the brothers break free, work together, and stop Northwind's takeover. In the end, Santa recovers, Christmas is saved, and Mother Nature proudly sees her feuding sons actually acting like a team. Heat Miser and Snow Miser even admit, grudgingly, that the world needs both of them, just not too close together. So since this movie came out 34 years after the original and 21 years after the main studio shut down, Rankin and Bass's partnership actually ended in 2001, although they've remained good friends until both of them passed away. But back to the point, because there was a huge gap in between production for this movie and A Year Without a Santa Claus, you can obviously see the kind of decline in quality. Don't get me wrong, I think the stop motion animation looks beautiful and it's very nice considering they are making a sequel to a special that is 34 years old. So I'll take it. I will say I think the songs in this movie are a little annoying, except the main one that Heat Miser and Snow Miser sings. I mean, that song's just a banger and it will never not be catchy. So that's the only song I like in this movie. But I will say this movie holds some nostalgia towards me because I remember watching this like all the time when I was like really, really little. When I was younger, I actually preferred this movie to A Year Without a Santa Claus. Now I obviously prefer the first one, but this movie kind of just in general makes me think of, ABC Family and the whole 25 Days of Christmas marathon. I just miss it so much. On a side note, I don't know why they changed it from ABC Family to Freeform. ABC Family was perfectly fine. And they don't really air this one that much on TV, to my knowledge, but that's okay. So yeah, it's definitely not my favorite, but it's not god awful either, but it's not great. So yeah, that is all of the specials in this timeline. I'm so glad I was able to talk about them. I love Rankin and Bass. I watch these specials every year. They're just so much fun, and I really think that they deserve so much more recognition. They're such great Christmas stories, and I would recommend showing them to your friends or your family, or if you have kids in the future, show them these specials, or if you have kids now, go show them these specials. They are so amazing. So that is it for this video. I hope everyone has a safe and happy holidays. Thank you all so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time in the new year. Bye!